welcome to Anchor and the Buoy.
That's your opinion.
That is your opinion. So, a lot of stuff happened in the news yesterday. Last night, I was talking to my wife as we were kind of reviewing the stuff that had happened in the day, and there's a lot of big things that happened yesterday, like significant things.
Yeah.
So, start off with a couple of them. I actually thought it'd be kind of fun just to go through Donald Trump's tweet. I think a lot of people don't really know what he tweets.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple things to look out for here. So the just revealed FBI agent Lisa Page transcripts. She was an attorney for the FBI during the Clinton cover-up and then again during the Trump special counsel. Transcripts make the Obama Justice Department look exactly like it was, a broken and corrupt machine. Hopefully justice will finally be served and so much more. And that goes on to continue with things like... This is all his retweets. Why did Amashiv say that talks with Cohen were limited to him inviting and allaying any concerns about threats to his family, but not mention the 14 hours staff spent prepping Cohen? Got a bunch of stuff that's just come out about the stuff looking into him. Looks like he went on a tweet storm here. New York State and its governor, Andrew Cuomo, are now proud members of the group of presidential harassers. No wonder people are fleeing the state in record number. The witch hunt continues. Thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, he's been going at it a lot, and it kind of goes back to last year. I don't know if you remember, but he put that tweet out that said, "When did the trials for treason begin?"
Mm-hmm.
And, you got stuff like this, and what those transcripts clearly show is they were going to charge Hillary, and they were told not to. So that goes back to that Bill Clinton meeting with Loretta Lynch.
The FBI was going to charge?
The FBI was going to charge Hillary Clinton. And the DOJ, the top of the DOJ, Loretta Lynch, came back and said no. And Loretta Lynch had just been caught on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, right? So there's a whole series of things that don't make sense, but you do see a total cover-up. And then he doesn't tweet about it today. I'm sure he will later. But what they're finding is there's a lot more under here. Comey testified under oath that it was unanimous decision on crooked Hillary. Lisa Page transcripts show he lied. So we got all kinds of perjury at the least, let alone potentially other high crimes at the very top of the DOJ and the FBI. What's your opinion? I know that there's a burn it to the ground strain that always comes out.
No, my opinion is that unless they find a scapegoat, no one's going to get charged with anything.
Okay.
No one's going to get in trouble unless they can find a scapegoat.
Okay.
The people who we want to get in trouble aren't going to get in trouble.
Well, who are the people we want to get in trouble? Because I think a lot of people right now, because it looks like it's Barack Obama is the ringleader. Like, there's a lot of stuff pointing right to the top. He was briefed. He saw it. I don't think he will get in trouble. I think he's the one that's going to get protected. I think Comey...
Name any big name. They won't get in trouble.
Okay, Lisa Page.
Never heard of her.
I'm gonna go back in time here, so don't pay attention to the screen. I'm just gonna scroll crazily till I see what I want to see. So I don't know, man. There's a whole slew of people that I just don't know what to think about it. Like, I think James Comey, I think Loretta Lynch, I think Eric Holder, I think Hillary Clinton is in deep shit. I think people surrounding her are going to go down. I mean, the president's retweeting stuff like this. Law set to expose coup against real Donald Trump, another FBI cover-up of potential Clinton email crimes, cleaning up dirty voting lists, plus standing up for the cross in the Supreme Court.
Okay, I want to talk about what we do about it, because I guarantee you nothing's going to happen to Hillary. So we need to figure out how to fix that.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about what's going to happen to her because nothing's going to happen to her.
So this is where I think
she's the people like her, they're the untouchables.
So here's this. If thinking that James Comey is not a good FBI director is tantamount to being an agent of Russia, then just list all the people that are agents of Russia. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Rod Rosenstein, who wrote the bill to get rid of them.
Why did Nancy Pelosi say that impeachment was not just? Was she actually trying to be a human being? Or is there another angle?
Their party is split. So they ran on the impeach Trump, Trump's a bad guy, resist Russia collusion hoax, and they lost in the they lost the House the first go round. The second in the midterms, They won the House back, and there's about 60 new seats. 54 of them are moderates, like not running on impeachment, tried to appeal to the middle Republican voters that voted for Trump that then voted for them Democrats in the primary. But there's those 4 young freshmen that are part of that SYNC group, the Young Turks that got backed by that radical left.
So she's doing it to protect the people who really need to be impeached.
They will lose their whole majority.
Okay.
Like, there's not a movement in the Democrats to impeach him, but the most vocal, the part that has all the energy, does. And they're in open conflict with Nancy Pelosi. So
there is no chance she's just trying to be like what we would expect.
So these tweets.
Hold on. There's no chance that she's trying to be just an actual normal good person and be like, hey,
no,
this is crazy talk.
No, she's playing the political game.
Okay.
These tweets that Donald Trump's put out, they're not for nothing. If he puts out a tweet that doesn't prove to be even semi, like someone can get behind it and prove it, that's a lie. That's a lie to the American people. These all get archived in the Smithsonian because he's the president. So for him to even put the things we've already read, it means he knows. It means it's true. Like he could be spinning it, but it means that the evidence is going to show just that. James Comey committed perjury. So now we have to go down the what are we going to do about James Comey committing perjury route. I think any other president and most politicians would want to just close this door. Donald Trump, I don't think, is that guy. When he says things like, more to come, justice will finally be served. When I see things like that, I'm like, dude, he's not letting this go. He's like a dog on a bone. Disgraced acting FBI director Andrew McCabe pretends to be a poor little angel when in fact he was a big part of the crooked Hillary scandal and the Russia hoax, a puppet for leaking James Comey. IG report on McCabe was devastating, part of an insurance policy in case I won. Many of the top FBI brass were fired, forced to leave, or left. McCabe's wife received big dollars from Clinton people for her campaign. He gave Hillary a pass. McCabe is a disgrace to the FBI, a disgrace to our country. Make America great again.
So that's what I'm saying. All those brass that were fired from the FBI, those are the scapegoats I'm talking about. In any scenario you want to run over anything.
So that's the thing.
The no-namers are the ones who take the fall.
But they've already taken the fall. They've already been fired. They've lost their pensions. He's under criminal investigation. Mm-hmm. So that's I guess I'm just like, it takes time. The Mueller investigation is totally conflicted, illegal and rigged, should never have been allowed to begin except for the collusion and many crimes committed by the Democrats. So he's putting it right back on them. Mm-hmm. Witch hunt. These guys, the investigators, ought to be in jail. What they have done working with the Obama intelligence agencies is simply unprecedented. This is one of the greatest political hoaxes ever perpetrated on the people of this country, and Mueller is a cover-up. Rush Limbaugh. And he quotes a lot of other people because he can't say it himself.
So why is his face normal out on
his
this
face
one?
is normal. He must have just been right out of the tanning booth, man. He was so orange.
His face is normal in that video, but that other video is almost red.
He was so orange. So there's a picture that this is a long time ago. He put the picture out of when did the trials of treason begin, and you can see there's obviously a long strain going back of pointing the finger back at the people that are pushing at him. But I don't know. I remember this happened a couple days ago when he went down to Alabama. So the fake news Photoshop pictures of Melania then propelled conspiracy theories that it's actually not her by my side in Alabama and other places. They're only getting more deranged with time. I always go like every comment because he's my president. Comey anyways. Yeah, they photoshopped the two of them looking like really remorse, and it was like a picture of marital bliss, and it was photoshopped just to cut out the fact they were standing in front of a grave, so they were like really solemn, like in prayer.
That's funny.
And they made it look like they were like pissed at each other, like marital bliss. It's like, fake news.
Fake news.
That's the one that I don't like. It's too long. It just needs to be fake news.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's your opinion? So is your opinion basically just until you see big names actually put on jumpsuits, it's kind of like whatevers?
If I'm not the one that has to do the work to try and bring these people down, then I just have to have faith that someone's going to do it.
Yeah.
And until I actually see a name come across the news, I just won't believe it's ever going to happen. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have been on the chopping block for years.
Yeah.
Nothing's happened to him.
See, and that's where I wonder with Donald Trump. He's just that kind of guy. I mean, he's the kind of guy that he's the outsider. He's not the politician. He doesn't have the ties on the inside like they do. He's played the game from the outside for a long time. I really, truly am buying into the fact that he is a patriot that says, I might be the only guy that's got $1 billion that can run my own campaign, that has enough social media following, that I have name like he might just be that guy for all of his faults and frailties, the outsider that says enough is enough.
Okay, so I believe
Because that's the pitch he's making is enough, and I am every man's man.
I'm more inclined to believe that he's actually a patriot than not. And I'm more inclined to believe that to get good things with people, you have to accept the things you don't want.
Yeah.
He's braggadocious. He's a far-leaning type A type personality. He thinks his shit doesn't stink. But he seems to be a really good leader, I think. The economy is doing great. Half of America loves him. The other half doesn't, but I don't really know. I think the people that don't like him as president, they just don't like his personality, and they throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I've had dozens of discussions with people like, why?
Yeah,
well,
why?
Because he's a racist. It's like,
Yeah, that's not true.
That's as far from true as Paul. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
So the evidence that I've seen, I like President Trump. I'm definitely not on his dick every day,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't seen him do or say anything that makes me think I should be ashamed of him to be the president. He said some tweets that are kind of like, dial it down, dial it down.
There are sometimes tweets where you're like, whoa, what the heck? But then I think of things like, all part of the witch hunt hoax started by little Eric Schneiderman and Cuomo. But when you dig into it, you're like, oh my gosh, who wouldn't say this? This is toned down.
Yeah.
Like when you go how deep, there's things like this. Like this is the kind of post that I don't like. Dear God, I bow my head to ask if it be thy will, please save this land from those who seek to destroy it. Amen. So this is the president of the United States retweeting Linda Schuler, PhD. She's kind of a well-known pundit, on the Christian conservative side.
That's a fictional character praying.
That is, yeah,
That
that's
person,
Uncle Sam.
That person doesn't even exist.
Yeah, that's just a picture.
That's a made-up guy.
But this is an old picture too. This is back maybe Reagan era. But the sentiment, right? Like save this land from those who seek to destroy it. When people say Donald Trump is divisive, this is what they're talking about. If you're on the other side of the aisle, you either think you're one of the ones that destroy it, or is he talking about the coup? Is he talking about these crooked, corrupt, top brass, dirty cops that weaponized and politicized our law enforcement? Is that what he's talking about? Because I'm like, well, I can get behind that because a dirty cop is a dirty cop. Or is he saying the Democrats are trying to destroy America? What is he saying here? And I think that's where it's like, is he being divisive, or is he trying to unify America behind law and order? I don't know.
I'm all for there being, at minimum, two parties, and really our country really only does have two parties, to be honest. It's just Republicans and Democrats. I'm all for that because that's a natural checks and balances. It's opposing views on things, so there's going to be opposing votes. And
Yeah.
What I don't like, so I made a T-shirt that says "Make America Normal Again."
Yep.
Because I saw a video of a guy walking down San Francisco butt-ass naked, and it's okay there.
But you can't wear the hat.
No. He's walking down the street butt-ass naked, and it's only illegal if you're erect.
Oh, jeez.
This is real. Brian Callen put it on his Instagram when he was there doing a weekend, and this dude's just walking down the street. He had a pair of suspenders on, I think, holding nothing. And the dude's dick's just bouncing all over the place. He walked by a woman and her child, and I mean, it is just like people are purposely not making a scene because they want to be progressive there. That's the stuff that I'm like, what is going on in this world?
Okay, so that brings me to my next. What's your opinion? The "Make America Great Again" hat, the MAGA hat. So my son, who's 6, went to the mall. I ordered these hats off Amazon. It was 2 for $7.99 or whatever. I said I'm gonna have one finally. Just gonna get one. So got delivered yesterday. My little boy loves to wear my hats. So he saw there was 2, so he grabbed one. Thought he'd have a hat like Dad. So he's wearing it all day yesterday. They went to the mall. He's walking around the mall with a Make America Great hat again on, and he didn't want to take it off. So my wife was like keeping an eye on him. She said people were giving him the stink eye.
Really?
Yeah, people were rubbernecking. And when they went to an arcade, and she wasn't going to be in perfect vision of him the whole time because he was going to go with Benson. She made him take it off. She's like, "Give me the hat."
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't want something happen when I'm not standing right there." What is your opinion on that?
I'm making a personal stand myself.
Don't kneel.
I don't kneel. I don't. It's a problem because it's a lack of communication. It is the people who don't like the hat. The reasons they don't like it are probably not true.
Does it kind of go back to this? Like they're misunderstanding the sentiment here? Like who's trying to destroy America?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to understand their point of view. I have a hard time understanding other people's point of view sometimes, and it causes a lot of strife in my life. They have had a chain of events happen, whoever the person is that doesn't like that hat, that have led them to that point to just be triggered by the hat. Some of those chain of events are validated. Some of them are total bullshit. So, I don't know, man.
So it's tricky because
I just have never heard Donald Trump say anything that I've never said.
yeah,
That's why I'm like, I can't be a bad guy. I mean, I've talked about grabbing pussy.
yeah. I mean, when he says that's locker room talk, every guy in America's like, "Damn it, yeah, mm-hmm." I mean,
A lot of men have started stories with, so I was in the car having sex with my girlfriend or my wife.
yeah, or just crassness in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I do find that to be one of the like the PC culture. I think outside of the small circles of Hollywood and DC, like the people that are in front of millions and just can't afford to
PC is
piss off the minority.
It's weird though because it's not okay for him to say they'll let you grab them by the pussy if you want to, but that's not okay. But it's okay for a movie to talk about being dominant against a woman. 50 Shades of Grey and
Yeah,
almost every woman in the country getting wet panties over it.
yeah.
Like they want it, but they don't want the man to say it. Like they want you to rape them without asking to be raped.
It's like the C.K. Lewis joke.
Yes, on the off chance that they actually wanted to be raped, you're just playing a game that you're just hoping they want you to force yourself on them. You can't tell them you're going to do it because then it ruins the mood.
So I have an interesting opinion here. So here we've got my Starbucks cup, right? And to some people, Starbucks represents a super liberal organization, which it is. They're by their actions. I mean, they're very progressive, very liberal, but they make damn good coffee.
It's so much better.
It's
than the
so
coffee
much
at my
better.
house.
It's so much better than what I brew at home, right? Like, it's amazing. I've got this Make America Great Again hat, and it's kind of the same thing. If you're a leftist, well, what has Donald Trump done that's any different than me just overlooking the liberal shit and the progressive shit of Starbucks for some good coffee? He's making the country fucking great again. Everybody's working.
Well, someone who would argue
Isn't that enough?
someone who would argue the other side is saying that America has only been getting better. We don't want to go back. So making it something again means you go backwards.
I think the implication is that we've already gone backwards. And I think that that's his stance. So the other stance is that the Obama years we went backward. We were under 2% growth, which is devastating. We look at the series of issues that our country could just slowly wore ourselves into. And so when he says "Make America Great Again," I get that. We don't want to go back. America never wasn't great. Okay, well, his new slogan is "Keep America Great." So can you get behind that? Like, I don't know. All right, so Donald. So the hat. My main question is this: Should we be afraid to express ourselves? I mean, do we live in a country that's so bad that you just can't express your political feelings? Like, I've seen Obama and Hillary stickers, and I've never once thought violence, key the car. I don't even hardly judge the people in them.
It's not a new topic, though. Religion and politics and money.
Yeah.
You don't talk about those things. That's been around since freaking 60s, I think.
Because it's divisive.
It's just, it causes arguments. it's okay to have different opinions, but you bring those topics up, you're asking to get into a heated debate.
So the question,
I am disgusted that a child couldn't walk around safely with it on, though.
yeah,
Because the person who would attack a child, I'd like to meet them.
yeah.
Like, that makes me sick.
And that's kind of like, I've thought about that too. I'm like, well, I'm a big boy. I can take the heat. I can stand in a debate. Should I be wearing that hat around just to be contrarian and take the slings and arrows like Donald Trump says, or is that just
You can
I don't know.
do it on your own time.
Yeah, I'm not
don't,
gonna-
Don't do it on company time.
I actually think the hat is really ugly. I did get one that says "Made you look again" though, and I
There-
will be wearing that one.
I think they're meant to be ugly. I don't think he made it thinking it was cool. He's old, so back when he was a kid, that's what the hats looked
Oh
like.
no, I agree. I think he went for the simplest.
He doesn't understand. Like, he went for the cheapest way to get it out to as many of his constituents as possible.
I think you're right. I just think he and I also he didn't make these. In fact, I think this one's even made in China, ironically, because you can. I mean, there's nothing. You can just go on Amazon and type those words in and order the hat. Like
Yeah.
there's not even. In fact, doesn't even have a made in. It's not even a tag. There's not
Yeah.
even a fabric tag. You know how usually everything's got a tag.
Okay, well, let's talk about a story that's actually happy.
Okay.
Look up, what's his name? Look up Andre Ingram.
Andre Ingram, right
Yep,
here.
yep. So this guy is in his late 30s. He has got gray hair, and this is his second chance at being in the NBA. The Lakers just picked him up, and he got picked up last year too, but I think they cut him. I haven't had the time to look into the entire story, but he got picked up again.
Okay.
It was in the news yesterday. He's a perfect example of someone who won't give up. He's been playing in the G League for
The G League.
the G League,
Okay.
like the league that pays you like $30,000 a year
Okay,
or whatever.
okay.
And I watched his story last year, and so that's the only reason I recognized him yesterday when he came across my feed. So he's just your average guy, just trying to provide for his family. Didn't give up his dream of basketball, and I think he's 37. Oh, he's 33. They gave him a 10-day contract, so they're giving him a second chance to get his stats up and prove he can stay on the team. That's pretty impressive to be a walk-on at 33 years old. He was 32 last year.
Yeah.
And so so I remember me and you talking a lot about a decade ago when I was in the military and you were in college. I remember talking a lot about the book you read, what's the book called where they talk about the hockey players' birthday years? And
It's by Malcolm Gladwell, and it's called it's either The Tipping Point.
no, it's not the Tipping Point. It's the other one.
It's his original one that really made him.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a Malcolm Gladwell book, and it basically tells you when you read it that you might as well not even try.
It's a depressing book.
It's a depressing book. If you didn't meet a certain criteria by a certain date, by a certain set of rules, your odds of making it into your
Outliers.
the outliers. The odds of you making it in the NBA if you didn't get drafted out of Duke or North Carolina, a big college,
Yeah.
are almost zero. And this guy didn't give up. Like, that is a big deal to me.
So what the real question to prove or disprove Malcolm Gladwell's book, because he talks about basketball, right, is to go see when his birthday is. Is he January, February, March? You can go look at a handful of things. That's what he's saying. So even that, the sad, depressing thing about Malcolm Gladwell's book is in the details of it. He goes into the nuance that this guy probably falls into the same statistical category as LeBron James. He might not have the natural talent, but because he was born at the right time of year, he got enough floor time. The fact that that's what Malcolm Gladwell's book is so depressing, because some of the people that fight through still end up being in that category of the stars aligned. It just took them longer to work through it or get their hours.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
I'm not saying it is
I
or
don't-
isn't. I'm just saying,
I'm not
in that
even-
book, it's depressing because sometimes he goes into these outlier. The reason it's
Yeah.
called outliers is some of the outliers end up falling into the generic statistical categories.
Yeah, but the problem is that I have with that book is it encourages people to give up. That's my problem with it.
So it's
There are so many people who can make a difference in what they want to do. Him as an example. He may not play after this season. He has a 10-day contract to prove himself.
Yeah.
So they may have been like, hey, we're a struggling team. We didn't make the playoffs. Let's go ahead and see what we can do with our next 15 games. Let's give him a 10-day contract. Let's pay him $50,000, $100,000. He's out on his luck. See what he can do.
Yeah.
If he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. But Fetch, man, after being in the NBA, what are your possibilities after that? He could coach just about anyone for a really good hourly rate. Do a lot of things. I just think about all the people that make it big that weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
I was looking at a CrossFit guy that was in the CrossFit Games last year. Now, given if all these pro athletes didn't have these big sports to play in, CrossFit wouldn't be what it is. Like, the fact that some of the CrossFit people exist is not a big deal because they're kind of the leftover athletes that can go into the pro sports.
Yeah.
But there was a guy who weighed 300 pounds 4 years ago, and he competed in the CrossFit Games last year, and he's in his 30s.
Okay.
That's a big deal. I mean, those guys are kind of freakish athletes anyways. I mean, they're pretty intense.
Yeah.
So it's people like that. So going on to the next thing of sports, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to the Browns. So they got Baker Mayfield.
So now we're going to find out that Odell Beckham Jr. is not actually that good.
Oh, he's good.
Everybody who goes to the Browns proves that they're not actually good enough to win games.
What do you mean?
When are the Browns won?
They
Are the Browns good?
This last season they were good.
Did they make the playoffs? I didn't even notice.
No,
them.
they won.
Define good? Sorry, I forgot. I don't know what metric we're using.
Define good just behind the Seahawks.
Oh, but the Seahawks were in the playoffs, right?
In terms of record.
Okay.
In terms of record.
Yeah, but the
So
Seahawks.
now-
But the Seahawks are in the Western Conference with one of the teams that went to the Super Bowl. So
I got to see what their
the problem with
was.
records in the NFL is you got to look at the conference because we got to play the Rams twice. The Browns may not have played them once,
No, I hear you.
and the Browns are in a crappy division.
The Browns record.
They play like the Bengals, and like they never play more than one good team a year.
Yeah, I got to see. So it shows their games here. They play the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Steelers, and the Jaguars. And they play the Eagles, the Redskins. Okay, so
other
their
than
record,
the Patriots, you don't really have a perennial contender on there.
You do. Patriots, the Chiefs.
Yeah, the
The
Chiefs have been a
Chargers?
contender the last couple of years. Chargers,
The Steelers?
hit and miss. Steelers, no.
I got to see what these records were. The Browns. They were 7-8. They are almost 50%.
In what conference? In what division?
AFC North.
AFC North.
So they were 50%.
Who's in that division? Name the teams in that.
Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals.
And what were their records this year?
Ravens were 10-6. Steelers were 9-6. Bengals were 6-10. So I mean, I'm not saying they're great, but the Browns didn't win a game for like 4 years in a row before that. And you know what happened last year? They got Baker Mayfield. You know what happens this year? They've got a top list wide receiver.
Hey, I'm watching. I mean, in a year from now, we can do a recap show, and
So
I'm watching. I'm not opposed to the Browns having a good team. I've lived a lot of years on this green earth, and I've yet to see it. So
they didn't. So
I've yet to see that orange helmet running around in the playoffs, even let alone.
here's what they got though. They didn't just get Beckham. They got. All right. They got Beckham. There were 3 other players they got. They made a big jump in talent this season. Gosh dang it. I can't pull it up now. I don't want to waste time on air. They got 3 big names. I don't know how they afforded it, but they got it.
Okay. All right. I want to cover 2 more things that were in the news yesterday before we wrap up. I sent you a whole slew of videos on Venezuela.
What,
Did you
how
watch
long
some
have
of
we
them?
been talking?
We're going on 29 minutes.
Okay.
So I want to cover Venezuela, and then I want to cover the school deal. Did you watch some of these videos on Venezuela?
Dude, I'm not watching anything on Venezuela.
Okay, so generally in Venezuela things are falling apart. So I found out what the two sides of the deal are. So you've got the Maduro regime, which has been the regime that's been in power, the socialist regime, and they have allied themselves with Cuba. And in fact, the entire inner circle of the Maduro regime is not Venezuelans, it's Cubans. So all of his security force and everything are Cubans from Havana. So they're kind of propping him up and keeping him from being dragged through the streets, essentially. Then you've got Juan Guaido, who's their Speaker of the House, the National Assembly leader, who's recognized by like 50-plus nations, including us, as the leader of Venezuela right now. So they're in kind of this huge conflict. Maduro claims that the United States did a cyber attack and then an attack on the electrical grid and then have been trying to chase Maduro out of town, and that it is the CIA and the Americans that are burning all the aid trucks at the border, basically trying to keep his military, pushing it. So yesterday he also called on armed gangs to get into the streets and resist. So there's a bunch of videos of like guys on motorcycle, like just thugs, drug lord thugs acting in Maduro's interest. So that's his side. The Guaido side is going, all of our nation's wealth and money, they've been shipping the oil to Cuba. Cuba then sells the oil for cash to Russia or to whoever, sends the cash back to Venezuela. They send cash to North Korea in exchange for nuclear secrets. So what North Korea brings to the table is nuclear technology and weapons. Cuba brings an outlet to Russia and a way to get actual cash and capital, right, that's laundered for North Korea, who has no economy, and get cash and capital for the leaders in It's nuts. So I'm watching it. I watched Pompeo's thing. It is a utter disaster from every direction from banking, directions from ideological failures, drug and cartel infiltration into the highest levels of government. It is a freaking mess. Mm-hmm. So with all of that, there is a huge debate going on right now in D.C. that's not in the news very much on what we should do. Should we intervene with our military? Should we go down there and snuff out Maduro so that Guaido can rebuild? Should we get really involved? Like there's on the floor of the House, they're talking about declaring war against Maduro to deal with it. And, there's interventionists and anti-interventionists starting to speak up. So it's not an issue, a big issue right now, but it could become, a declaration of war any minute. I mean, we're right there.
There's warlords and dictators
everywhere.
Not everywhere. So I was thinking about that this morning. If you took a map and circled all the really bad places to live in this world, it's not that many. You can circle half of Africa. You could circle a few countries in South America, Venezuela being one of them. You could circle North Korea. Mm-hmm. And beyond my knowledge, I'm not familiar with any other places that are just like all-out disasters to live in.
Probably parts of China, if you're Muslim.
Probably parts of, good thing I'm not Muslim. So places that are like Venezuela right now, like North Korea is it's permanently like that. Like it's just terrible to live there. So you got these 3 or 4 places you can circle on the map that are bad. We can go into Venezuela and just fix the problem in a week. It would be that easy. But I know we're not going to, because we haven't done it in Africa and we haven't done it in North Korea. And those have been happening way longer than Venezuela.
Yeah, obviously there's some oil in Venezuela, unlike sub-Saharan Africa. But I don't know. So I want to listen to Matt Gaetz here. So I think Matt Gaetz kind of summarizes this pretty quick on just where things are going to kind of devolve if people just don't become aware.
People of Venezuela are without food, water, medicine, and now even electricity. And the organizing principle of American policy seems to be the need to drive Maduro from power. What if Maduro is not really in power right now? What if the people that are really calling the shots in Venezuela are a group of transnational criminal organizations that merely maintain Maduro as a figurehead? And what if their entire purpose is to draw the United States into an ill-advised war to create a massive migration of people throughout Latin America, eroding borders, jeopardizing nation states, and ultimately leading to a permissive environment for more illicit activity to occur? These are important questions we have to ask. My constituents have to go to Central and South America and fight these wars, and certainly as a Congress, we need to be very critical in our thinking to not get our nation in another ill-advised war.
Okay, so for the record, that's a Republican, Matt Gaetz from Florida. I thought, from everything I watched and saw in the news yesterday with regards to this Venezuela being kind of a voice of reason, like, let's hold off on the interventions. If we got to go fight these wars, you know, like, just the nature of fighting that war could play into the very hand that we're being set up to do. You know, go down there, intervene, destabilize things, because that's the nature of war.
Well, that is what I talked about the whole time we talked yesterday, was the nature of human beings. We see suffering and don't want it to happen.
And sometimes you have to let it.
Sometimes you have to let it.
Yeah.
There's so many more people there than there are bad guys.
Yeah.
So they need to figure out how to band together and take control.
No, I think that's what's I really do think that that's what's going on. Like when I, you know, that I think that's what's going on. I know you didn't watch it, but I retweet these things. So if you get on my Twitter, you can just follow along with a lot of what we've got. But this is Juan Guaido in the dark in the assembly, and I'm just going to play 2 seconds of it because he's speaking in Spanish. But he's asking the military, who's still under control of Maduro, to stop shipping the oil. And he's saying they're pumping money from the people of Venezuela, will not continue pumping money from the people of Venezuela. Members of the armed forces, you're aware of Cuba's interference on intelligence and counterintelligence. Anyway, he goes into this, and he's basically saying, you guys in the military know that you're actually being run by Cubans. You're all fully aware of this. Stop sending our money and our wealth and our resources to Cuba. It's not even we don't even have food and power. He's in the dark in the assembly giving this speech. Powerful. I mean, just this is the people that are going to end up rebuilding when Maduro finally, you know, when the military finally relinquishes the support.
Who's protecting him?
So,
like, is there still a band of people there that are good, that have weapons?
yeah, I mean, he's in the house here, or he's in their house here giving this speech. As the Venezuela saying goes, self-serving purposes prevailed. Let's see if it was love or self-serving purposes from the Cuba on this regard. Anyways.
So what I'm asking is all those doctors were getting dragged out of the hospital by the mob or by the gangsters or whatever. How is he able to stand in the house and not be drug out of there?
I think he's got guards.
So there's still that's my point. There are good people that have weapons that are able to protect themselves.
Well, yeah, and it's force, right? Like when it comes down to it, if I need to take you out one-on-one, we go one-on-one. But if you've got one single bodyguard, me by myself probably can't do anything. Well, what if I bring my bodyguard or bring two bodyguards? So it's a game of numbers, and I think Maduro can't rush in on Guaido because he probably does have 1,000 people are surrounding him.
This is my thing.
You know, but at the same time, Guaido is the one who controls the nukes, or he doesn't have nukes, but he's the one who controls the real military.
He's not going to nuke himself.
No, but he controls the real military, the tanks. So it's kind of like, yeah, one tank versus 100,000 people, the tank loses.
So,
but you know, it's the detente of who's really willing to do that, who's going to drive the tank.
There's not another country in this world like America.
No,
that shit would never happen here.
Why?
Because the second it started happening, I would just drop what I'm doing and start fighting.
Yeah.
Like, that shit would never happen here. Ever. It couldn't.
And I would just say, for one reason only, the Second Amendment.
I'm not saying because of the Second Amendment. I'm saying because of our mentality about life. Like, it's just, we are a very violent country. We are extremely violent, but we reserve it until necessary.
We have like a controlled violence.
Yeah, like I'm a very violent person if I have to be. Like I just can't even imagine. I can't even imagine being there and being who I am and being in that situation in the hospital, I am going to find the first opportunity I can to safely disarm someone and start fighting back. Like, I'm not going to be the hero and jump in there and get my ass beat by a bunch of
And be the
armed
martyr. You're not
men.
going to be the martyr.
I'm not going to be a martyr.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the silent assassin.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to play it smart until I've got a group of guys behind me. Like I'm not going to be like in the movies where I think I can take out 6 or 7 dudes all at once.
You're not going to pull a lethal weapon.
I ain't no Jason Bourne.
Take everyone out.
Yeah, I'm not a Jason Bourne. But what I am is smart enough to know when to take action.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it just makes me sick to watch this stuff because we don't need to go do anything. Why don't we drop a crate or 100 crates or 100 C-130s full of weapons into the areas where there's good people and then just let them sort it out themselves? Why don't we just give them the means of self-protection?
What the heck?
Why can't we do that?
I think we tried. They burned our trucks at the bridges.
No. We airdrop it.
They shoot us down. He has a military. He has planes and jets. So if you fly into his airspace, you engage in a dogfight. So that's why, like, the Venezuelan. In fact, I saved it on my phone just because that's where it was. But this is a great example why they're not airdropping. Because nothing's happening in Venezuela. These were yesterday's flight patterns around Venezuela. They're not even, you can barely see it, but they're not flying over Venezuela because the Air Force will politely escort you away because they don't want the humanitarian aid coming from anybody.
So
right?
we-
Maduro is still trying to turn his own people back against Juan Guaido and try to blame everything on these outside forces. Socialism failed because the CIA, not because of corruption, greed, not because all of our oil's been shipped to Cuba, none of the money's coming back. Like, it's
I
ridiculous.
started out this thing by saying, let's just let them figure it out on their own tough love. And I'm ending it by saying, why aren't we doing anything? It's just the natural human being wants to help.
Wants to help, yeah.
There is an easy way to fix it, but we can't just rush in based off our instincts to help, because that representative right there explained why.
Yeah,
What if you're falling into a trap?
yeah. It's things like this TikTok video, which is Bloomberg, showing people carrying buckets of filthy water. Like, nobody has clean water. You got like 5.1 million people in this one city drinking runoff. Like, they're all going to get cholera and like, all right, this is where we go. Dysentery.
Okay,
5 days, no electricity, no filtered water, no pumps.
I guarantee I'm gonna get so many people to hate me when they start listening to our podcast, because I speak how I feel with what I know.
Yeah.
If there's millions of innocent civilians and there's, I don't know, how big is their military? 500,000?
Whatever.
You're gonna have to send some guys to the front line to just die. In the Civil War, they would march towards each other while shooting. They didn't even know about trench warfare.
So, yeah, I get the impression
You
with
gotta
this.
die. Like, there's gonna be people that you're like, hey, you're the youngest, the dumbest. You're gonna be in front. They still do that in today's military. The youngest, newest guy in the squad is always the first to go in the room. He's always the first to check out the IED. You have to have the mentality that you're prepared to die. If they want their country back, they have to be prepared to die.
I get the impression some of these people are. I mean, I don't know. This
Just look at it like just think about it. You get 100 of these civilians. They say goodbye to their families, and they go and charge a building that has 10 security guards.
dude, it's
They're-
you think
50 of them right off the bat are going to get gunned down.
so. I think where they need help is we need to send engineers, we need to send electrical technicians, telecommunication
But we
technicians.
can't. They're stopping everyone.
Yeah,
at the
they're
border.
stopping everyone. So Maduro's got to go. Like, the regime needs to fall. He needs to stop commanding military and stop commanding resistance.
Who are those guys?
Okay.
Who are those guys with the weapons and the body armor?
Okay. So it says Venezuela's military is taking advantage of the scarcity by selling supplies to those who can afford to pay for it. That's incredible.
So that's what I'm saying. Are those good guys?
No, they're bad guys. They're using their access to the resources to sell them for personal engagement. So they're just a small scale level of the
They're
corruption
stealing
that
from themselves to sell it to the civilians.
basically, yeah, at a profit, right? It's the corruption of the Maduro regime. It's literally just the small scale corruption. Maduro is hawking the oil to Cuba, and they're hawking the MREs to the starving people. You know, like it's you see it even with our soldiers. You know, they're selling cigarettes for more than they're worth in the Middle East when we first went in and they didn't have any trade or whatever. You know, it's very sad. Anyways, situation in Venezuela, I don't know, but I do know this. I do know that it's going to be a major issue for the next 20 years because nations don't just fall quickly and they don't rebuild quickly. So it's not going to be something where, I mean, they need everything. They need economic support. They need so much.
That shit would never fucking happen here. It makes me so mad to think about it. It would never happen. There are so many Americans out there just like me who, as soon as they see this, they're like, I'm ready to die. I'm ready to go fight this right now to preserve my future generations, to preserve my lineage of family. Like, I would do it right now. I'd drop what I'm doing. I'd go get a machete. I'd get whatever I could get my hands on as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It starts small. It's you don't get together with a few militia people that you organized and be like, hey, let's go take out Maduro today. No, you make a game plan. You make a war plan. How are we going to take out this one building? Once we take this building, we'll now have 100 machine guns.
Yeah.
We'll now have 1,000 rounds of ammunition. What do we do next?
Look at this. So the Bicentennial Bank in Merida was looted. People left the Venezuela boulevards behind and left the money in the street and set fires of Venezuela boulevards to prove it's worthless. They went and...
That's what I'm saying. They're spending their time trying to make a protest when they need to be fighting.
I don't think there's anywhere to fight. The fight is over. So that's what it was. Matt Gaetz and a different thing. He's like, Maduro's not really in power. Like, he is pinned up in the corner of the little canal.
He's suspecting that he's not in power. That's what he said. He said,
well, he's pinned up in this little corner of the canal, right? But his military is spread out all around the borders. His Air Force is still working, right? So he's doing his little thing, but he's not calling the shots. He's not patrolling the streets. There's no law and order. But the problem is nobody is. And there are people fighting. Like, obviously, they broke into the bank to pull that out. There's not dead people in the streets.
It's utter chaos because not everyone wants to be liberated. There's bad guys mixed in with these civilians that are like, hey, there's no law anymore. I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just fighting the bad guys. You're fighting the bad guys that were the good guys.
Mm-hmm. So this is in New York City. So these are Venezuelans in New York.
95 hours without electricity. Our people are starving to death. Our children are dying. No one has the conditions in Venezuela to stay alive with this crisis.
They are trying to use the propaganda for Maduro's regime to wash their face about the responsibility that they have on burning the international aid that we send to Venezuela. Why the New York Times is using right now this that happened 2 weeks ago to just take out of the focus of what is actually happening right now within Venezuela.
This is critical. I actually really like this one.
What is happening with our people. We're here desperate to know, even if our family or relatives are one of those that are dying right now within hospitals.
Venezuelans gathering in New York City today to protest against the New York Times' suggestions in a recent report that Nicolas Maduro was not responsible for the blowing up of a humanitarian aid truck. The New York Times cited a time-lapse in security footage released by the Colombians and said that, in fact, a Maduro protester was the one that threw the Molotov cocktail that actually ignited the truck that you're looking at in that video ablaze. Now, here's the thing. Regardless of who threw what matters here, what matters more than anything is that people were understandably, rightly enraged because the man that is supposed to protect their country, their so-called president, refused the entry of so much needed humanitarian aid, food, medicine. And tonight, it gets worse. The likes of socialist freshman Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and another freshman Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, who is seemingly anti-American, if you ask me. They are joined together tonight in peddling conspiracy theories that this tragedy in Venezuela is all driven by the United States of America. Wrong. It is driven by socialism. It is driven by Nicolas Maduro, who has deprived his people of dreams. These women are so anti-Trump and so naive and so ignorant, and I'll add, so inhumane, that they would prefer to see millions of people suffer than show a little generosity and help someone else, because sometimes in life it's just the right thing to do.
Okay.
They are showing their true colors tonight, and they are.
I can't even understand how the connections could be made that we would be responsible for Venezuela.
Yeah.
I just can't even understand how those connections could be made. Like, it's like the conspiracy that's quasi true of the CIA peddling drugs in L.A. In Oakland.
It's crazy. Okay, so last topic. So Venezuela, that's probably one. We'll probably end up revisiting this, I'm sure, at some point. But last topic is this scandal with the schools, with wealthy parents manipulating the system to get their kids into universities. So basically what appears to have been, there's Alan Dershowitz described it as two levels of corruption. You've got one level of corruption, which everybody's kind of okay with, and that is the Jared Kushner model, right, which is dad buys a building, pays for the building, and then the kid gets in for free. But here's the deal. Lots of students get to use that building. There's no debt associated with those buildings. To let one kid with the right last name come through because somebody donated a ton of money to directly benefit the university and everybody that goes there, it's just allowed.
Any wrong deed can be justified.
Any wrong deed can be justified, but there's a certain point where you go, yeah, we'll let we'll let the Bush in here because they put $100 million endowment, and there's going to be 1,000 kids go to school for free because of their endowment or whatever. All right, that's one level, and we just kind of live with it because there is some side benefit to it. Then there's this other level of rich people who can't buy a building, but they can pay $500,000 to the athletic director to put their kid on the crew team that then never goes to crew, right? Or
What's
crew is rowing.
Oh.
So the other big one, and this is where the bigger scandal is, and that is the manipulation of ACT and SAT scores. So in this country, we use those standardized tests for everything from racial metrics to go, let's put it this way. If the ACT and the SATs and standardized testing are corrupted and corruptible like that, and you can game the system, everything we know about racial inequality / racial equality based on standardized testing gets called into question. So the old trope that black people aren't as intelligent as other, how can you prove otherwise? Because all the evidence that we've done to prove it, now we see as a corruptible, broken system. These kids that are getting into Yale that are having to have people take their ACTs for them or help them do it and are getting all the stuff. How are they not flunking out of Yale? How are they even getting through the programs?
Because there's a facade built up that these schools are actually better than a regular school.
Understandable. But again, we come back into that question of obviously they're not. So it takes that entire veneer away.
The movies, man. There's so many movies like the social media movie about Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
He's sitting in that class and he solves an equation that the professor was profounded by, and he calls out a professor's mistake. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, if that class existed the way they portrayed it, it was a high-level class in a particular discipline. And it's like, but where was he? Harvard?
I think so. I think that's where he went.
And it's like, okay, so everyone just gets this idea that Harvard's this really intense, hard school, and if you get a Harvard degree, you must be on your game. It's like, come on. We're all human beings here.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
We're all human beings. By this point in my life, I have realized that certain things shouldn't stress you out because you have to realize we're all working within the same set of rules of life.
But we're not. That's the point of this story.
No, I mean capabilities.
Okay.
So if someone gets mad at you because you couldn't fly through the air like Superman, you're like, well, wait a sec, I don't think anyone can.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Like, what do you expect of me?
Yeah.
Like, so if your boss comes down hard on you about something, you could look at yourself and then be like, well, hold on now, wait a second. He was asking me to do the job of 2 people.
Yeah.
And paying me for 1. What does he expect of me? That type of thing. So there's this facade that getting into these schools makes you smarter, which I don't think is true. However, the truth is getting into these schools gives you a leg up in society.
The idea that it makes you smarter, it's supposed to make you smarter. That's the idea. A graduate from Harvard is supposed to be smarter than a graduate from USC. Like, that's the point of why Harvard only lets 4.0s and only lets the top tier in. So the fact that kids can get in by not just by blatantly gaming the system, by not just paying it, not just buying a building to get in, like the open, like, oh, yeah, well, they bought a building, but we're all going to use this new library.
Well,
this is they paid the athletic director $15,000 to put their kid's name on this list. They photoshopped athletic extracurriculars, like, took the track state champion and photoshopped the black guy that wants his kid to go to school's face on the pole vaulter to make it look like he pole vaults, even though he's never pole vaulted.
Put yourself in a Hispanic shoes or a black person shoes now, and hear this information. You'd be so outraged, and it would just reinforce why you think the system is rigged.
Yeah, and I think that's why today.
So how do you blame hundreds of thousands of people who think the system is rigged and they don't want to play by the rules that are in place because they don't believe it'll do any good? What do you tell them?
No kidding, right? It's a mess. So here's the college cheating scandals trends today. Here's the charging.
Their child's
I know that,
answers
and
afterward.
they pick them because
all
they're
to achieve a
high-profile
sufficiently
names.
high.
It's because they're tied to the one guy that confessed. So this has been going on since 2011. So Hollywood has been silent on this today. There's only been a couple actors that have jumped out and gotten behind this, which is another one of those like, oh, shit. These are only people with their kids currently in school that but what he says is they've been going on since 2011, but they basically are going to start charging backwards. So they started with the people who basically have kids in school right now, this second, related to the guy they picked up that is the ringleader that was taking most of the bribes. But going back to 2011, it's not just going to be these 40 people. I mean, it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of people that have been caught up in these schemes are going to be laid out, which is, I don't know, maybe exciting. Oh, look at that. Obama's family tennis coach. It's never going to stop. Anyways.
What?
The connections, right? Obama's sports coach has been indicted. That's all. Which just means, yeah. There's always going to be those connections.
Well, it's a reach.
So do you remember the Q conspiracy?
Oh, you mean the make-believe guy?
Yeah, the make-believe guy.
The genie who can just predict the future.
Here's the challenge with the make-believe guy. The make-believe guy is just so damn right all the time. So the unsealing. So he's been talking about the unsealing of the first indictments will hit Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? This was the indictments. The numbers finally came up. So we've been watching them for a long time.
How does this hit Hollywood? I don't understand this because 2 people from Hollywood are in trouble.
2 people. They're all from Hollywood. The whole thing is a Hollywood. The whole thing is centered in L.A. The whole thing.
So what? It's not a Hollywood thing.
It's that tier of rich. We're not talking the billionaire rich. We're talking the 100 millionaire rich. We're talking about the movie stars, the people that can drop $500,000 to put their kids into school.
But how does it hurt Hollywood?
Because it's them. It's that group. It's not people from Cleveland buying their way into school. It's this group of first-generation wealthy actors that didn't have education themselves trying to set their kids up, justifiably so, for success beyond Hollywood because their kids aren't going to be successful actors making $20 million a movie or starring in Desperate Housewives or et cetera, et cetera. So they're trying to get their kids into Yale, Harvard, whatever, so they can get those investment banker firms. That was one of the things they mentioned.
Just slow down on the accusations until all the facts come out.
We could just watch that and then I don't have to say it, but we didn't watch it. So when they talk about, like, it's damning. I mean, it's. And then the ACT scandal is the other one. I love it, man. It's gonna be.
Well, like I said to you yesterday, I don't understand these people. If you're already a millionaire, why don't you just teach your children to invest?
Yeah, I know,
I
right?
just don't get it.
So Alan Dershowitz, or someone made the same comment. Like somebody spent $6.5 million to get their kids into a school, and
a CD
Ben-
will turn you 5% on
Ben,
that.
Ben Shapiro
alone.
was like, "Why don't you just do what normal rich people do? Put that money in a trust and just let your kids be derelict citizens of society forever." Like, why?
It doesn't even have to
But
be
I think
that
the idea is
certain.
it's not cool for the parents to have derelict kids, so they want to have kids that have Yale degrees that then are derelict.
They don't have to be derelict. It's just, why wouldn't you just take that $6 million and make, oh my gosh, what is that a year? If you, what is a good investment these days?
But here's the thing: these people are not investors. They didn't earn their money that way. They earned their money in front of a
I'm
camera.
a regular guy. Do you think I'm any smarter than they are? I'm thinking about it like, hey, I've got $6 million. Should I blow it on a university?
That's a good question. Are you smarter? You've had to balance a checkbook because everything you want in life can't just be bought on a credit card and paid for from your last movie. Like, we have to live on a budget. There's a lot of things we get to say no to.
That's
like,
what you make every year on a CD with $6.5 million. You make 300
you
grand.
totally don't need to buy your kids into school.
Your kids, after taxes, can get 20 grand a month. After taxes, they can live off $240,000 a year off that $6.5 million, and it will stay balanced with inflation if they make other side investments along the way.
So again, this goes back. There's so many systemic.
There's so many questions. I got so many.
There's so many questions. Obviously, they're not that smart. Obviously, this school thing means something. Obviously, they don't have the financial literacy to just go buy a CD. Obviously, there's status involved. Like, they're using their kids' degrees as status symbols, right, to add to their badge of this is everything I've accomplished. Alan Dershowitz had it great. He goes, I unfortunately know some of these people. He's like, they've raised their kids in an environment where they never lose, where they're always the winners, where they get everything they ever want. They never have to study. They get bought off everything, right? And then when it comes time to actually get merit, to actually apply for college and actually do these things, all of a sudden, that life of ease and luxury and softness means you barely qualify for the local community college.
Well, the reality is the parents were busy making money, to be honest. So it was probably a maid raising them.
Sure. That all of those things are in consideration, but I got to raise my kids too and have a family, and I got to prep my kids for college. And we all, just like you've said, we're all normal people. We all face those challenges. So what makes your schedule different than mine?
No, I'm just saying I don't understand how you can have a lot of money and be concerned about sending your kids to Yale.
It just goes to everything that it falsely represents. Like you said, it's not really a better education.
And $6 million is not a lot of money in a lifetime.
No,
in a llifetime, it's what you would. I would. The average American makes 50 grand a year over the course of 30 years.
I think 6.5. Think 6.5 million from what I read was the most any individual that was charged contributed to the scheme. But some of them were like
million. If you had $1 million, you could set your kid up.
Well, some of them were like Felicity Hoffman. She paid $15,000 specifically for the ACT portion of the falsification.
So there's someone coding somewhere that takes a $15,000 bribe to change a ACT or SAT score.
From what I read, so to me, that's where the real scandal is going to be. Is the frailties in the ACT SAT
Is it an
system.
inside thing or is it a hacking thing?
It's both. Well, I don't know about hacking, but let me tell you what the three main accusations are. The first thing is having doctors write notes saying that they can't take the test in the normal proctored manner. So they take it one-on-one with a proctor. The proctor is also coaching them. So the proctor is corrupted. So the ACT and SATs have these certified proctors that then have been corrupted in this game. So if the kid can take the test, it's cheap and easy just to have a doctor write a note, a proctor sit there and coach them through the test. So it's their test.
Is the 15 grand going to the proctor then?
It's probably split up, 5 to the proctor, 5 to the guy setting it up.
Well, see, here's the thing. I've just got a feeling that there are people within the ACT, SAT standards committee that are losing their minds right now because they're stand-up people.
Yes.
And they had no idea this was going on. So I don't want to say it's an ACT SAT thing because the people who run it probably are not guilty at all.
Well, no, that's why this is a scandal for them, because they have consistently put out that they're the standard.
I know it's going
right?
under their noses is what I'm
yeah.
thinking.
So sure, it's not like some big corrupt thing from the top down ACT.
Yeah.
But this is demonstrating we rely so much on these test scores for everything from college admittance to even just saying things like, oh, all people are as smart as, like, we use this information on testing in so many ways.
You know what you could do, though?
It
You can wait until you're 28, 27 years old, and no colleges care about your ACT scores.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. When I got in,
At that point, they just want you in because you're old and you contribute, or what?
they didn't even care.
Did you not take it? Or
I took it, but I was sick the day I took it, and I probably an F.
when
if
did you
were to-
take it?
Senior year of high school.
Okay.
I showed up sick as a dog because I was like, you have to take it or your life's over. You only do this twice a year. There's not another test again. And I took the second one because I didn't care about the first one. When I went to Boise State, I walked in. I remember giving them my high school transcripts, and they put me on probation for the first year for math because I didn't have the required math levels coming in.
Okay.
And so I was on academic probation, and I had to maintain it was like a 2.0 or higher. It was basically don't fail out of the classes and you can stay.
Okay.
And it was, yeah, I guess that's the only thing that happened. I got put on academic probation. They didn't even look at my test scores.
Wow. I just want to see something here. Okay, so this Tanya McDowell, she got 12 years for sending her 6-year-old son to Norwalk CT's Brookside Elementary School while she lived in Bridgeport, even though she was homeless. She was convicted of first-degree larceny for stealing an education, and that's because the education is paid for by the local taxpayers who raise levies for their kids.
It's not as cut and dry as
So-
they're making that out to be right there. It's a complicated thing. You want the best for your kids, but in reality, you're sending them to a school that you're not contributing to.
DJ, Becky's going to jail. So, so the getting a proctor to do it. The next thing was full on getting a fake student to do it. So basically getting a fake ID for a kid to go in and take the ACT pretending to be someone else. So these are people that essentially are professionally taking the ACT now.
Yeah.
For these kids.
I'll bet you it's a rigged thing
Now-
through the proctors. If it's the way you say it is, I guarantee you there's proctors. They have to get certified in some way, and they're like, all right, they pay us minimum wage to proctor these tests, but it benefits them in some way or another outside of the money aspect, and they're just like, people will pay big bucks.
I think it's simpler than that. I think it's more like you're a librarian at the school. So you send in a little background check application, and then they say, okay, you can proctor our test. Like, I bet you it's super simple to proctor the ACTs.
Well,
SATs.
what I'm saying is I think the proctors, if they're the ones that are helping so much, it's probably an inside thing. Like, how the employees at a Burger King know when to steal the food.
No, they all know who they're helping. And
They
who
all,
they're not.
yeah. So
No, so the third accusation was that the score itself is actually being manipulated from inside the deals. I didn't hear anything about hacking or whatever. It could be just as simple as somebody going in and manipulating it. But those are the three accusations with ACT, SAT allegations made in the charging that they were gaming the SAT system. Now then there's additionally gaming the admissions process of having coaches write their kids' names as a designated recruit, which means the school will let them in regardless, but then never participating in those sports.
Yeah.
So like the crew was the easy one
They're
to
the
mention.
towel boy.
Yeah, so crew says we get this many kids a year to basically give a free scholarship education. So you're giving that scholarship to someone who's not participating and then making walk-ons actually earn a spot on crew, not get the benefit of participating in crew.
I want to say that I don't really care if my kids go to college, but I'm not dead yet, and I just would hate to eat crow that 10 years from now down the road, for some reason, whatever, my degree gets me something.
Yeah.
Like, I just having it. Like, your dad lost a job at Boise State University because he didn't have a bachelor's degree.
Yep.
It came to the point to where they're like, hey, you don't have a degree. We can't keep you on anymore. And it's like we don't care what
which
it's
is
in.
unbelievably insane to me in a day and age of online educations.
No, I'm
Like,
not,
it's unbelievable. I'm gonna say this about my dad. It's unbelievable to me that you get to the point that you blame. He's had multiple jobs where he blames his, the reason he had to move on from that job, not having a degree. And it's like, Dad, you've been saying this for most of my life, so at least 20 years now.
just do something
I've heard
about it.
this. At any point, you could have just taken 2 years of online school and finished up your degree.
So
like, at
he
any
told
point,
me- he told
you could just. University of Phoenix has a campus a mile and a half
Yeah.
from my dad's front door. He could do University of Phoenix and then do his actual live classes there.
Well,
like,
he
it would
says
be
he
so
regrets
easy.
it. He says he regrets it because the classes were free when he worked for BSU.
That's the other thing. He's working free school. My mom got through free RT on my dad, and he didn't take advantage of anything but the gym, which barely took advantage of.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the degree could benefit you in other ways because other people have perceptions of what a degree is.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying, well, what if we're talking to a potential business partner down the road and it's important to them that their partners have college educations? And let's say I didn't, and they're like, sorry, I can't do deals with people that aren't upper, because it is a significant.
First of all, the question, if we're dealing with someone who knows us personally that won't do a deal because we don't have a degree, I think we would have to step back really good and be like, is my degree in psychology really what you're looking for?
No, because a marker of someone who there's a marker. I read a paper one time on people who do the lowest level of education, and you can tell a lot about that person.
Yeah.
So if you stop at 12th grade and never pursue any other certifications, college, trade schools, any other levels of education, there's these markers that can be highly predictable of that person.
Okay.
So it's to some people it's a big deal if you have a degree. Whether it's in sociology, you got your sociology degree to just have it.
I always understood a college degree, like there's a lot of jobs, like the Boy Scouts of America. To work for the Boy Scouts of America, you have to have a college.
And they don't care
college
what it's
degree.
in.
They really don't care what it's in. And I asked, like, why is that? And they said, well, it's been demonstrated to us that people with a college degree generally can meet deadlines. They can write, like there was like a basic list of things that they need to do at a higher level that they believe that anybody who gets a college degree has somehow been able to achieve
Well,
this.
it's the only
standard.
time in their adult life they had to do something without mom and dad.
That's true.
Because mom and dad got them up for school every day in high school.
Yep.
That type of thing.
So I do think college has a benefit in that, but the problem is when the benefit, the personal benefit of keeping deadlines, doing assignments, being motivated, that's great, right? Obviously, you can get those lessons joining the military possibly. You could get those lessons in private industry. You could just get those lessons at home with parents who teach work ethic. So then you go, well, what's the education
But
for?
as an employer, you won't know that
That's
unless
true.
you take a risk.
That's very true.
So you could just say the degree itself tells me that they can at least follow through.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with college. I talk to my daughter about it a lot, and it's like when you go to college, study what you're interested and passionate in, first of all.
But
and then
as long as it's not English or history or anything else, you can just teach yourself for free.
Yeah. Study something that is unique to what you're doing. I want to encourage my kids to go into STEM.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I'm also like, if they don't want to go to college, like if they have a path, because I was a motivated teenager. If I would have had a mentor, I probably could have avoided some things.
There's so many fatherless kids out there being like, bitch, you had a dad.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want the life my dad had, so. But anyways, all right. Well, we're over our time, so we'll get this wrapped up. But this has been Anchor in the Buoy. We've talked about good old Maga, Donald Trump, Make America Great Again hats, the crisis in Venezuela. Talked about some sports, Odell Beckham and the Browns being so crappy, and
Le'Veon Bell had an offer to stay with the Steelers for $70 million, and he turned it down. And now, do you know where he's going? He's going to the Jets for $50 million.
that sucks.
That's a big contract though. And
The worst thing is he's going to where the bad taxes
yeah,
are.
and it's horrible weather and everything else. But Antonio Brown is going to the Oakland Raiders on $52 million, I believe, with 30 of it guaranteed over a 3-year contract.
Wow.
So the Steelers have been disbanded. They've got no one left but Roethlisberger, and he hasn't been that great the last few years.
Yeah.
So
We'll see. All right. Anchor in the buoy, signing off.
that's your opinion.